Everybody, welcome back to Lettermen Row. I'm Austin Ward. You know him. That's Zach Boren. It's that time. It's the Silver Bullet BuckIQ breakdown. Zach, we thought a month ago Ohio State's going to win these next 4 games. That's not really a question. That's the baseline expectation. And I asked Ryan Day about that after the loss to Oregon. What are you going to measure as success? Well, you got to see that progress. You just know it if you see it. I ask you, are you seeing the progress you wanted?
You definitely have seen it, from Minnesota, Oregon, and there on out. This defense, this entire team just gotten stronger and stronger. There's been so many different storylines throughout the year, offensively, defensively, so many other things. CJ, with injuries, with CJ Stroud's shoulder and whatever it might be. Yeah. But the way I look at things is this defense is setting the tone for this team because they were the ones who really were sputtering early on the season. They've gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And we've been talking about it for weeks now. This youth movement that you've been seeing, a lot of these guys stepping up, a lot of these young guys not having to rotate now and have firmly cemented themselves as starters. This team is just getting stronger. And you and I were talking about this. You're going into a bye week and you got to continue to keep that momentum. You can't, take you can't take off the pedal whatsoever. So this team's got to keep on building the momentum, go to Indiana, and then a massive showdown in the shoe against Penn State.
Zach, so many of, I guess the more critical film breakdowns and BuckIQs we've done since we started these were focused on the linebackers, and it's been up and down. There were some really encouraging moments since Al Washington got there. And then there were some, growing pains at times. It's been up and down and up and down. And even within this season, you've seen that, some growing pains replacing those 4 seniors from a year ago. But the last couple of weeks, it feels like they found something there.
They definitely found something, and you just hit the nail on the head. There has been a roller coaster of performance in this linebacker room over the past couple of years, but finally feels like they're finding something. They do have a little bit of rotation, but the guys that are playing are just on top of it, know what they're doing. And, you and I have talked about this for so long, read and react. And that's more true at linebacker than probably any other position. But aside from that too, of reading and reacting, you got to have a nose for the football. Right. You got to just know where it's at. It's that knack. It's that attribute that it can't be taught. You either have it or you don't have it. And a lot of these guys that are playing like Steele Chambers, like Cody Simon, these guys just have a nose for the football. And it's something you can't explain. But, watching these games and breaking down this film, it sets these guys apart from everyone else. And when you have a nose for football and you're getting there with a purpose, it sets the tone for this defense.
Okay, so we probably could have guessed that Taraja Mitchell, as a senior and a captain, was going to, he waited his turn and he developed. Maybe he's going to have a good season. That's starting to bear itself out. But you didn't know, Tommy Eichenberg, decent recruit, heard some things in the offseason that pointed to being a playmaker. He's getting better. Cody Simon, I think you and I both would have bet that he would break out. Those things are starting to work out. But Steele Chambers wasn't even playing linebacker in an Ohio State practice until August. Why was this so clear to maybe everyone that he needed to make this move before he finally decided to do it? And what's allowing him to make such a smooth transition?
First and foremost, look at the running back room. It's loaded, right? Let's be honest. There's not enough balls to go around in that running back room, let alone the balls that CJ Stroud needs to get around to all those playmaking wide receivers, right? And so, you knew you were losing 4 linebackers in last year's class, very talented guys who I've been very supportive for a long time.
Yeah.
And this Steele Chambers, what people don't realize is Steele was probably a better linebacker recruit than he was running back recruit coming out of Georgia. This was a kid who was very talented on the defense side of the football, wanted to play offense. Ohio State was pushing him to the offensive side, maybe thinking he was more of a Beanie Wells type running back. But all along, this guy should have been in the linebacker room. This guy's got a nose for the football. He's got a knack for it. Finally, he gets that chance over there, and you see him finally finding some comfort and getting into his own. Obviously, early on, I was in that position before. Sometimes you're walking on eggshells. You're like, man, what, am I doing the right thing? You're thinking too much. At the end of the day, you need to know where you line up. You need to know what some of your job duties are, not even all the times, because a lot of times linebacker, man, you're freelancing, you're making everyone right. A lot of times as a linebacker, you say you got the A gap. Well, the defense lineman gets washed down. Guess what? You're in the B gap. You need to play off of that. You can't be a robot at linebacker. You got to be able to play quickly on your feet and read and react like that. And so Steele Chambers is doing that. Steele Chambers is making the defense whole. He's running around. He's playing great with his eyes. That's what you have to do at linebacker position. See everything unfold in front of you and then react and trigger on it. And that's what Steele Chambers is doing, and you'll see that on some of these clips we play.
Yeah, pretty remarkable rise for this guy. Just reminds me of 2012. Just put this offensive guy over there at linebacker. Let him run around a little bit.
There was a decent guy back then, I think.
I think he's got some pretty impressive stats from just a half season of playing linebacker. And it's good enough that a decade later, he still gets to break down the silver bullets right here. We're going to let Zach get to it, see what's going on with Steele Chambers. Let's roll the tape. All right, Zach, I think I might have got a text message from you about 30 seconds after this play ended on Saturday. We got to break this down. I thought it was one of the most impressive plays of the game. You look at it on paper, like, oh, well, a gain of, 2 or 3 yards. How does this matter in a game that's 66-17? Well, this is why Steele Chambers has become such an important part of the silver bullets there.
This is exactly why he's become such an important thing. Look at this. I mean, there's 3 offensive linemen out here. Obviously, you got corner up top that's being responsible for wide receiver. The entire defense is running left, and obviously it's a screen pass. It's set up very well by Maryland. They're showing you everything from a defense standpoint to go left. Steele Chambers recognizes this, goes through an offensive lineman and makes this play for, I don't know, a 2 or 3 yard gain. I mean, so many other times linebackers will try and dance around this offensive lineman. Instead, he's playing downhill, uses his leverage. Man, this is perfect, takes a phenomenal angle. I texted you when this play happened. I was sitting towards the end zone and I saw this unfold from the other end. I was in shock. I was like, this play was absolutely phenomenal. His closing speed, which we're going to see in a lot of these plays, his closing speed is unlike any other, being able to play sideline to sideline. And this is a big physical dude that's able to play downhill. For him to be able to go through this block, stay on his feet, and make this play, I mean, hats off to you, Steele Chambers.
Zach, how does somebody – we've seen this before, like linemen are going to get their hands on people. They're going to get blocks. They're scholarship athletes too. When somebody like Steele Chambers here, like, what's the key to avoiding this block and making the play? What is the mentality? What's the technique you got to use here?
A lot of these linebackers that you see try and dance around this and try and say, hey, I'm going to use my speed to go around it. And next thing you know, they dive after running back and don't get it. Steele Chambers right here dips right through it. And as you see him rip right through. He knows, hey, I got to turn my shoulder and try and get skinny here, because if I just try and take him on, obviously I'm going to get bucked off. And the dude's 330 pounds, right? He's a big dude. I got to get skinny enough to try and get through and know I'm going to take on some contact here, use my speed, use my leverage. He dips through. The offensive lineman's only able to get on his backside, and Steele Chambers stays on his feet, is athletic enough to make this play and get right down. This is the perfect way to play it. So many times you try and see linebackers backdoor that block and go on the backside of the lineman knowing, hey, he's not athletic enough to turn and get me with speed. That point, the running back's by you, and you're trying to dive and go after a running back, and he's already gone. He had to go through this playing downhill, and he did it perfectly.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we talked about when Steele Chambers was on offense. Hey, this guy, he's not afraid of the physical contact, and that's part of the reason you thought, well, maybe it would work the other way, because the guy is clearly a football player and loves that part of the game.
Yeah, he most definitely is. And this is where it shows that, hey, he's not perfect. And I said it earlier, and I think Al Washington and Steele Chambers knows this too, right? He probably went, when the play first evolves here, goes a little too far left, probably need to play downhill a little bit more, not try and play so much over the top as you see right here. Obviously, he says, he thinks, hey, I get kind of caught up in the wash a little bit. He could have stayed on the backside. Yes, he sees the pulling guard, but instead of trying to go over the top right here, stay there, stay firm, shed the block, knowing that, hey, feeling from the linebacker standpoint that the backside of this line is getting washed down. Hey, let's fold back underneath. And instead, he could have been right there making this play, but instead plays over the top. But look at this closing speed, right? He's on the other side of the hash, running back is a couple yards in front of him, and he's able to run this dude down to the sideline. And, yeah, he gets some yards. But, man, look at that closing speed and the way he's able to play. Yes, it's not perfect, but that's having a nose for the football and playing with some athleticism.
Yeah, a lot of that, as you've talked about over and over, the read and react, some of the stuff, he's doing for the first time, or now game 4 or 5 for him. And, he doesn't have a ton of reps at doing this, but the instincts, I think, have been pretty good. And now you add to that, maybe he'll get better at diagnosing what the actual play is.
No doubt. And if you run this back a little bit, this is perfect, right? Listen, he's getting zoned to him, right? This is perfect. I'm going to play downhill. I'm going to go attack the lineman. I'm not going to sit here on my heels. Look, playing downhill, meeting the offensive lineman at the line of scrimmage, keeping great leverage. You see how he keeps his right shoulder free right here? This is absolutely phenomenal. Plays with his hands, but then guess what? Hey, didn't give it off. The quarterback didn't give it off, right? He's throwing it out here to the end. Look at this closing speed, guys. He was in the middle of the field, and this is a simple little wide receiver, basically stop route right there. Corner doesn't make the play. Steele Chambers able to run from the middle of the field and make this play for like a 3-yard gain. The athleticism is not just born, everyone doesn't have that. Right. 44 back in 2012 was not making this play. Double two right here is making this play. I mean, this is a Ryan Shazier type play. That's the kind of athleticism that Steele Chambers has. There's not many dudes that I've seen that is able to make this play, getting downhill, taking on a blocker, recognizing its pass, and getting out to the sidelines as quickly as Steele Chambers does right here.
I think he might appreciate the Shazier comparison more than the 44 comparison. But again, I was going to say that 44 made a lot of tackles. Let's not undersell it.
He was playing inside the tackles, not so much outside.
All right, fair enough. This is going, what do we got outside the tackle? It's another opportunity in reading, reacting, and then shooting a gap.
I love this. This is playing downhill. This is the nose for the football that we're talking about. I mean, he's the backside linebacker right here. He keeps his leverage, staying on the backside of the running back. And for him to take the angles, like nose for the football is all about knowing where you're at on the field, knowing what angles to take, knowing, hey, what am I seeing with my eyes? I mean, Steele Chambers right here playing downhill. Okay, block, got it. Hey, guess what? The guy's trying to get his hands on me. Get off right there. Swipe him through. Guess what? Tommy Eichenberg right here does it. I'm pretty sure that's Tommy. Does a good job taking on the lead blocker. But guess what? Steele Chambers is still having to play around this block and still play downhill. And if you see this right now, the running back is still ahead of Steele Chambers and still has the closing ability to make this play at the line of scrimmage, even a yard below, and get downhill. This is a phenomenal play. The first screen pass that we saw in this play, I think, were his 2 best plays of the game, but we've seen it with all of these clips, how athletic he is, how his closing speed is unlike a lot of other linebackers that we've had here. I mean, this is a guy who plays with a purpose and triggers so good downhill that he's a guy that can keep on seeing more and more reps.
Yeah, and you talked about it last week, Zach, that Maryland had, some offensive personnel that could maybe give Ohio State trouble, to hold them to 17, to have Steele Chambers, who was playing running back in the spring, lead the team, 7 tackles and a sack. I think Ohio State will take a lot out of that as they build into this bye week.
For sure. And this was Steele Chambers' best game by far. I mean, this was the game that it's like, okay, this dude knows what he's doing. It finally clicks. Hey, this guy's going to start seeing a lot more playing time. For me, it was kind of the same way. When you go from the offense defense side, it's kind of a whole new world, especially in college football, just because there's so many different things going on. You need a game where just everything kind of clicks, where you just feel like, hey, I'm back to playing football. And this was that game for Steele Chambers. You're going to see him play a lot more. He made a ton of plays this game. He was right where he needed to be at all times. And even though he wasn't perfect, he was getting to the football with a purpose, and that's all you want out of a linebacker.
All right, another couple weeks of practice waiting for Steele Chambers as he settles in at linebacker. Ohio State gaining some momentum, getting stronger heading into the second half of the season. Zach is going to break it down for us once we get to that point after next week at Indiana. Until then, we'll all catch a little bit of a breather as well. Zach, appreciate you as always, my man.
Of course, man. Bye week, refresh, and we got some juice coming the rest of the year, man. It's the home stretch.
Bigger games, some huge games coming down the stretch. We're going to get into it no doubt, here on BuckIQ and at Weekend Kickoff. That's Zach Boren. I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you for more Ohio State coverage at LettermenRow.com.